I've been a Winix fanboy for years, but their new air purifier? I'm sorry to report, I'm sticking with the older model. Today I'll be reviewing the recently released Winix 5510. This is the much anticipated successor to the incredibly popular Winix 5500 II. And many of you have asked us to review it over the last few weeks. So this review is for you all. But before we jump onto it, I have a couple of housekeeping notes to go over. I paid $459.65 in total, including input fees and shipping, based on a price of $249.99. Right now, the RRP on Amazon.com is $199.99, and as of this video, it's available for $149.99. In this video, I will compare the Winix 5510 to nearly 100 air purifiers we've tested at House Fresh, based on our first-hand data on air cleaning performance, sound generation, energy efficiency, real-life user experience, and long-term running costs. If you want to find out more about how we test air purifiers, please check out this video here. And if you don't want to watch my full review of the Winix 5510, here are the 4 things I like and the 4 things I don't. Firstly, what I like. It's a better looking design compared to the older 5510 and every other rectangular Winix device today. When running at its top speed, its cleaning performance is on par with the original 5510. The Winix app is intuitive, as has no annoying ads that we see from other apps, and its body is more compact, so it has a much smaller footprint compared to the 5500 II. What I don't like, air cleaning performance speed drops dramatically when running at sub 45 decibel fan speeds. And this sucks because the 5510 is much louder when running at its top speed when compared to similar sized air purifiers from Winix and other brands. The smartphone app is a new thing from Winix, so it's still quite bare and lacks features we see from brands like Levoy and Xiaomi. It uses a new Winix filter, the Type Q, so if you have the 5500 II, then you won't be able to use any of the spare filters you might have at home. Plus, as the 5510 is a new device, there are no generic filters available right now. Okay, let's jump into the full review. As always, we'll start by looking at third-party independent tests that could give us a KDAR report. I use the Energy Star air cleaning database to track down KDAR reports as soon as someone asks me for my input on a device. I do this for 2 reasons. To quickly assess whether an air purifier is good value for money or not based on expected air cleaning power at full speed. And I want to find out whether the manufacturer is open to feedback on their device and is happy to be transparent about things like air cleaning performance, energy consumption, and ozone emissions. Right, in the case of the 5510, Winix did send it for a KDAR testing and the device was certified in October 2024. Based on its dust KDAR of 252 CFM, we expect the 5510 to have similar performance scores as we saw with the Winix 5500 II or the Levoy Vital 200S or the Smart Air SA600, cleaning the House Fresh test room of all PM1 particles in around 23 to 24 minutes when running at their full speed. But we won't stop at top speed, we will also test its particle removal performance when running at lower fan speeds, so we can estimate a KDAR figure at sub 45 decibel speeds too. This device emits 0 parts per billion of ozone, although it does use a bipolar ionization process with its plasma wave. However, the AHAN test showed no ozone emitted, which matches the expectations we have for plasma wave based on the science behind it. One thing I noticed when looking at the report is that the KDAR per watt figure of 4.58 for dust is slightly lower than the 4.86 that was reported for the older 5500 II. Before we jump into the performance data, let's look at the most obvious improvement brought by the 5510, its look and feel. As soon as I unboxed the 5510, I could immediately tell that the design was smaller than the older rectangular devices from Winix. To be more precise, the 5510 measures 1.3 inches less in width and 0.9 inches less in height than the 5500 II. This also translates into weight, with the 5510 being 1.44 pounds lighter than the older 5500 II. I love the compact design, but it did make me think of the need for a more powerful fan to make up for the smaller filter. And that did make me worry about noise. But before I get too derailed, let's go back to the design. The front cover of the 5510 unclips from the front to reveal a removable pre-filter, which is something I'm glad that Winix decided to keep. Behind the pre-filter, we have a pelleted activated carbon filter that, whilst it looks smaller, Winix says contains the same amount of carbon as found in the older Winix 5500 II. Finally, we have the true HEPA particle filter. The 5510 does use a different type of filter set, the filter Q, with the number 1712*0123-00, and it works for the 5510 and the 5520, but it's too small for the 5500 II or the 5300, C545, or the other similar rectangular Winix devices. In the marketing materials of the 5510, Winix says this device comes with a dual smart sensor, which sounds awesome as the combination of particle and gas sensors will potentially make the auto mode more accurate, like we saw in the Winix Zero Pro. However, upon inspecting the sensor up close, I could only identify a gas sensor, so I reached out to Winix to clarify what they meant by dual smart sensor. The Winix team was quick to respond, and they explained that the 5510 will utilize odor and light sensor. This unit does not utilize a particle sensor. A good thing about a gas sensor is that you don't need to clean them regularly as you do with particle sensors, but they can be less responsive to changes in particles compared to a particle sensor, and this can affect the responsiveness of the auto mode at times. So to clarify, the dual aspect of the sensors in the 5510 comes from the presence of a light sensor that will automatically set the unit to sleep mode when it detects darkness. I do love this feature, and you will find it across most of the Winix devices. As with other devices with inbuilt sensors, the 5510 comes with an LED light that sits at the center of the front panel, and that will change from blue to red depending on how bad the air quality is based on the readings from the internal gas sensor. The control panel sits at the top and is intuitive and easy to navigate right out of the box. From left to right, you have a power button followed by a fan speed button to change between the 4 fan speeds available, and a sleep mode. In the center of the control panel, you have a Wi-Fi button that you will use when you first set up the app. Moving right from here, you will find a button for enabling and disabling plasma wave, and next to that, you will see an indicator light that will alert you when it's time to change the filters. After reviewing the T810 and now the 5510, it's become obvious to me that at this point, Winix is focusing heavily on the aesthetics of their devices with their new generation of air purifiers. And design-wise, I have to say I much prefer the look of the 5510 as it's slick and feels more modern than the 5500 II. However, let's not get caught up too much with looks, as the 5500 II is hardly an ugly air purifier. Another big focus for Winix with these new models has been the introduction of smartphone connectivity through an app. I was able to install the Winix app in one go without issues, which I wish is the norm, but unfortunately it isn't. Once it was set up, I found that the app has very clean UX and doesn't have any ads plastered all over the place trying to sell you other products from the brand, like you do with Lavoie. The app has a 4.6 out of 5 stars in the Apple Store and 3.4 out of 5 for the Android users in the Google Play Store. I have an iPhone, so I guess I looked out on the app, but I spent some time reading the reviews on both the App Store and the Google Play Store to try and replicate any of the issues people were reporting. However, I found that most of the negative reviews seemed to be from many years ago for an older Winix app that was quite buggy. When filtering through most recent reviews, it was clear that most people are having no issues, and in cases where they are reporting something wrong with their app, Winix is very proactive in intervening to help out. While I didn't experience any issues with the app, I found it quite bare bones compared to other apps I use for other air purifiers. There are a lot more features available in apps from brands like Lavoie and Xiaomi, but I guess that makes sense as they both have been developing their apps for a lot longer. Something that both these other apps have that I'd like to see one day in the Winix app is the ability to adjust the auto mode sensitivity. I'm a data nerd, so one of the main reasons why I like installing apps for my air purifiers is that I can dig through the air quality data. However, in the case of Winix, I found that the app took a lot longer to show the data. This is another point where the Lavoie app shines, as you get real-time data from the onboard sensors without any lags. I hope that Winix will add improvements and features to the app as they roll it out across more models, but the key thing is that their current app works and that there are no major issues that mean you won't use it. The 5510 has a true HEPA particle filter and carbon filter that has 226 grams of carbon, which is the same as what we saw with the older 5500 II. I checked this figure with Winix before shooting this review, and they confirmed it. Using the data they shared with me, we can compare the amount of carbon in the filter with other devices. It's good to see that Winix uses pelleted carbon in the Q filters for the 5510, but it would be good to see some other filter options that include more carbon for those who want to deal with more serious odor issues. Another good thing about the filter of the 5510 is that it is a unbonded filter. So when the carbon runs out and starts getting smelly, you can just take out the carbon element and continue to use the true HEPA filter while you wait for the carbon replacement to arrive. Bonded filters like the ones we see in the Levoit Vital 200S force you to throw the whole filter away once the carbon runs out. And this is a shame because particle filters usually outlast carbon filters. So you might be getting rid of a perfectly good particle filter just because the carbon filter side is full. But enough ranting about bonded filters. The last layer of filtration comes in the form of plasma wave, which is a bipolar ionization process developed by Winix that produces lower levels of ozone and chemical byproducts compared to what we see with air purifiers that release negative ions. In our testing, we've seen that enabling plasma wave can lead to small increases in performance of around 5% on average. And if you want to avoid ionization altogether, you can disable the plasma wave on the 5510 and all other Winix devices. Let's move on to the house fresh performance test to see what happened. First, we tested the Winix 5510 running at top speed with its plasma wave enabled. According to our Zen sensor, the 5510 needed 24 minutes to achieve PM10 in our 728 cubic feet test room, which matches what we would expect based on its KDAR report. Let's compare this result to other similar performing and similar price devices running also at their top speed. As you can see from the table, the 5510 compares very well against some of the best mid-sized devices we have tested when looking at raw performance at top speed. But considering it's a new model, I was hoping it would be a little quicker than the older 5500 too. I know many people may want to stay away from ionizers, so I retested the 5510 without the plasma wave enabled. When running at top speed with plasma wave disabled, the 5510 took an extra 2 minutes, completing our particle removal test in 26 minutes, which is the same result we got when testing the smaller Winix T810 with its plasma wave enabled. As I always say, if an air purifier is too loud, you will turn it off eventually. This is why we used a sound meter to measure how much sound the 5510 generates from 3 feet away. We did this across all fan speeds, including sleep mode. Be aware that our background noise is 35 decibels, so the 5510 running at speed 1 and in sleep mode is likely quieter if we could measure it in a silent room. But feel free to have a listen for yourself. We can now compare the air cleaning performance and the sound level at top speed against data from other air purifiers in the same price range. I wanted to love this air purifier, but as you can see from the table, the sound generated by the 5510 at top speed is just too loud compared to what you'll experience with most other air purifiers with a similar clean air delivery rate. Just to give you an idea, here is the Winix 5500 II at top speed versus the newer 5510. One benefit of larger KDAR devices is that they can be run at lower fan speeds and still effectively clean the air. Running the 5510 at speed 2 will produce 40.8 decibels of sound, which is below the 45 decibel limit that Clean Air Stars recommends for loud classrooms or offices, and also very close to the 40 decibel limit for quiet offices and classrooms. So I repeated the particle removal test in our 728 cubic feet test room with the 5510 running at speed 2, and it managed to reach PM10 in 60 minutes. We can compare these results with other air purifiers running at sub 45 decibels. When accounting for sound, the 5510 performed poorly, especially compared to the older Winix 5500 II, which could clean our test room 17 minutes faster when running at speed 2. By the way, I also tested the particle removal performance of the 5510 running at speed 3, and it was much quicker, completing the test in 38 minutes. However, at speed 3, the 5510 generates 51.6 decibels, so it isn't a fair comparison against other devices running at sub 45 decibels. All in all, however, the 5510 can't compete with the PC fan-powered air purifiers like the Luggable XL from Clean Air Kits or the 3 Pro from Air Fanta when we account for sound and performance. But this is expected as we keep seeing HEPA retail air purifiers being outmatched by PC fan-powered devices. As always, we used our energy meter to measure how much electricity the 5510 uses when running at each fan speed, and also whilst it's on standby. I also made sure to measure how much power was used once I disabled Plasma Wave. If you had to leave your 5510 running 24/7, it would cost $59.98 in energy costs for a year. With this calculation in mind, we can compare the annual energy cost you can expect from the 5510 against expected energy costs for other air purifiers in the same price range. As you can see from the table, the 5510 uses just a little bit more energy than the older 5500 and its estimated yearly costs are in line with those of other similar priced air purifiers. However, it's not just energy usage that adds to the running costs of an air purifier. You will also need to replace the filters eventually. Winix says you need to replace the filters for the 5510 every 12 months. The recommended OEM filter Q kit costs $79.99 for 1 carbon and 1 true HEPA particle filter. We can now combine energy and filter replacement costs to estimate yearly maintenance costs associated with running a 5510 24/7 at its top speed. But looking at the figures in isolation won't be as useful, so let's compare it with other similar performing air purifiers. As the table shows, running a 5510 for a year will cost you 60 cents more than the older 5500 assuming you're buying genuine Winix filter replacements. As the 5510 is a new air purifier, generic filters are not yet available for it, so you won't be able to reduce the cost of replacing your filters by opting for cheaper options. However, I do expect this to change once the 5510 becomes more popular. So should you get the Winix 5510? I feel a bit bad saying this as I am a big fan of Winix, but I'm going to say no. The 5510 is more expensive than the older Winix 5500 It offers less powerful air cleaning performance than the 5500 runs much louder at top speed than the 5500 and it has fewer filter options compared to the 5500 I do really like how compact the 5510 is, and the new design looks a lot more modern and high-end compared to the older 5500 I also like what Winix is doing with their smartphone app, which you won't get with the 5500 But when it comes to air purifiers, the most important thing is how much air cleaning power you will get, and I feel that the 5510 is a step backward from the older 5500 especially when you run it at lower fan speeds under 45 decibels. If you like the idea of getting a Winix, but are not a fan of the bulky 5500 then I would suggest you look into the Winix T810 as it offers similar performance at top speed than the 5510, but you will get better air cleaning power at quieter fan speeds. Plus, it also comes with the same smartphone connectivity through the same Winix app. And if you're a big fan of app support but are not too bothered about getting a Winix device, then I would recommend looking into air purifiers from brands like Levoit or Xiaomi, as their apps are much more polished and feature-rich. Devices like the Levoit Vital 200S or the Xiaomi Pro 4 will offer similar air cleaning performance than the 5510. The Winix 5510 is certainly not a bad air purifier by any stretch, but I would personally stick with the older Winix 5500 and benefit from the lower running costs, higher variety of filter options, and the extra air cleaning power, even if the 552 is not nearly as good looking as the 5510. Winix created an incredible device in the 5500 so it's clearly going to be tough for them to top that achievement. Now, if you're still set on the 5510, please make sure to buy it using the links in the description, as it will support our channel. We'll get a small 3% commission over the sale at no extra cost to you, and this will allow us to continue to buy and test air purifiers in the future. Or if you want to go with my top pick, then I've included a link to the 5500 so you can purchase it while supporting our work. If you have any questions about the 552, then drop them in the comments and I'll try to answer as soon as I can. And thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.